Neil, in the World Payments Report, I mean, one of the sort of standout features of it was the changing composition of payments. So we're seeing debit cards powering ahead. So 1 in 3 non-cash transactions now is a debit card, and credit cards, by contrast, are more stagnant. They're not growing so fast. What do you sort of read into those kinds of changes?
Well, I think it's very interesting, and that absolutely is one of the insights from the report. What I think the analysis also shows, though, and this is perhaps Mike's point, is this is a business that rapidly commoditizes itself. And so you will have certain payment types, certain channels, certain products, certain markets, which will sustain a very high growth rate for a period of time. But because of the innovation, because of the competition, and to some degree because of the regulation, because I think there's enabling regulation, and then there's regulation that is protecting the industry, you get this commoditized aspect. So, it might be that we see debit cards, for example, growing disproportionately relative to other payment streams for a period of time until there's a disruptive change in the marketplace, whether it's through the banking system, whether it's through telcos, whether it's through regulation, that comes along and says, actually, there's a better way to do this. I'm fascinated by all of the new technologies that are coming along, whether it's contactless, whether it's some of the mobile technologies, and we could spend some time talking about that. But it's which of those will actually take root, and then what impact will that have on the different payment types and their growth rates.
Yeah, because Mike, I mean, you mentioned that the business PayPal is still growing, but where is that growing? Where is that growth coming from if we start to split it down by business area?
Well, PayPal's growing at different rates in different regions, because obviously if we're in a footprint expansion mode where we're entering a market and we're still developing our business, then we're growing at 60-70% year on year. And in markets where we're more established and we've reached not a saturation point, but we've become a part of the norm, then we're still growing at sort of 20% year on year. So I'd say PayPal is doing very well for itself, and there's still a lot of opportunity. But in the scheme of things, we're still a small part of the total payment spend. So there's a lot of opportunity for us still. And coming back to the value-adding point, I think really the challenge for us is to continue to find ways of making a difference to people, helping people do more with their money, in not just in the consumer space, but also in the business space. So how can you add value in a way that actually is relevant and useful to somebody? And then, of course, you become the preferred vehicle for someone to use if you're really making a difference for someone in their daily lives. And we call it getting stuff. You want to get stuff with your money. You want to use your money and make it work for you. How can you get more stuff and get it more quickly and more easily? So that's the kind of thinking that we're adopting, and really trying to make that available anywhere, anyhow, any time. So that's kind of the thinking that we're using, and it's proving effective. We're still growing very rapidly, pretty much everywhere we are. And I think the other thing that's important for us is to focus on the fact that we are deploying our technologies and our solutions in the cloud as a digital solution, which is not linked to a specific technology such as NFC or specific mobile devices. So a lot of people make the mistake of calling this a mobile wallet. For PayPal, a mobile wallet would be a wallet which is actually storing financial information on the phone itself. So your credit card or your debit card or your bank account, or all of those, would be stored in the device, and the device would then be used as a vehicle to make a payment, which is a really cool idea, except if you don't have that device with you, or if the store itself can't accept that payment method or the vehicle, or you perhaps get confused, lose your PIN. There's all kinds of small things that might go wrong, but we're taking a different approach. And I think that the digital wallet, as we think of it, rather than the mobile wallet, the wallet in the cloud, which can be used in any device and in many different use cases and environments, and potentially also with richer user experiences too, where you can involve coupons, you can involve loyalty, you can involve receipt storage, all kinds of things can be added to the user experience. And I don't think that is necessarily different for the retail and consumer space to the transaction banking services. I think that there's a lot of things in that kind of area, a lot of thinking along those lines that could be applied to transaction banking as well. That could be very interesting to add value to corporate customers.
Okay, well, I think we'll probably come back to a number of those topics. I mean, certainly we'll have a little look at this sort of the corporate transaction banking space and definitely talk a bit about the cloud. But before we do that, Lawrence, I mean, perhaps you could tell us a little bit about how SAP's business has changed during the course of the recession. You know, whether you've had to come up with different kinds of products, or there's been a different kind of demand.
Okay, yeah, it's interesting, really. I think if you look at financial services, it's grown for us tremendously and continues to grow. And I think one of the reasons for that is certainly in financial services, a lot of the organisations are realising the benefits of standardisation and industrialisation in times now that are tough, where perhaps in the past with the large profits people were making, it wasn't so much of an issue, and they had more money to spend on tailoring things to their own specifics and building them themselves. So we're seeing much more of a move now towards that standardisation and industrialisation within the financial services sector. I think the other thing for us that's interesting as well is looking at the cost paradigm of keeping lots of these channels open, moving technology from on-premise to the cloud and on device as well. So as a technology company, we have to make sure that we are building things that are going to be relevant in the future. It costs us a lot of money, as it does banks, to build IT solutions, so we have to make sure they're relevant. So for us, I think one of the things that we've done is to move from a purely applications company into a number of other different areas now. So cloud, mobile, big data, all of these sorts of elements, database now as well, and technology. So if a customer wants to take something currently on-premise, they do that, and then they can move it at some point in the future onto the cloud, or can make it mobile, depending on whether their customers are happy to accept that or whether the regulators are happy to accept it, for example. But it shouldn't be exclusive to any one of those particular areas. You know, the customers need to be able to orchestrate across those elements. So for us, I think it's an exciting time. It's one that we haven't probably seen before, where banks are approaching us saying we want to include much more standardization, industrialization. And I think there's some good collaboration now in how we try and help them move to a lower cost platform going forward.